the town said it's going to be painted gray or, a gray color, which is not a natural color that's found in nature. And I think it kind of stands out, makes it look like a kind of concrete tombstone a little bit. So I took it upon myself to digitally impose two colors on this wall that goes down to 20. And the gray and the brown, which is kind of I would call it kind of a brick color. It blends into the tree trunks. It's kind of a natural, warmer color, which is recessive in nature. So I did two ones. I did a gray and a brown. And I'm sure from here you can see that the gray really does stand out. So I wanted y'all to see that. And I don't know if there's any samples or anything that we would have access to as options there. So that's the interest at Elmhurst. And then this is going down to 20, and you can see with the more taupey kind of brown color versus the gray color that there's really a big difference visually there. So I think if that carcinite wall is the best material, or what we have to use, just a slight change in color will make all the difference in the world. So I wanted y'all to see that, and I think it's a good opportunity for everybody in Summerfield to kind of come together, rally around the wall, sing Kumbaya, and let's get us a better wall instead of beating our head up against the wall. Thank you.
And I live at 7532 Strawberry Road, and we've been going up and down there about 15 years now. I came to see you because I wanted to thank Scott Whitaker for all that you have done. The town is wonderful. We love it here. We love Founders Day. We love the schools. We love the movies. And we love it that our son-in-law retired from the military and brought his family here to live. And if I stay at home, but I'm active in a lot of other things, but I felt that I did you a disservice about being a resident of Summerfield by not coming here and saying how much I do appreciate it. And for what you've been through, sometimes you don't make enough money. Thank you, Scott, very much. Looking forward to all that has been gone on about the planning. But I would like to say, during different meetings that I have had here in Summerfield from residents from Greensboro, I've been asked, what is wrong with the police department here? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's great as far as I'm concerned. I sleep good at night. And go, well, we see these signs, PD. And I said, it doesn't have anything with public display either. But I hope that this town will always be welcoming to all people. Jim and I are retired. My husband is retired from the military. And we came here and we love it. But let me tell you what, our big house, we really would like to live in a duplex in Summerfield, just because Jim doesn't want to mow anymore. And believe it or not, the grandkids are not all old enough to do it, to help us. So please keep all people in mind when you're talking about the developments. Certainly, I know a lot of people have moved into some great places, great homeowners associations, and that's a planned development. The other thing that I want to thank is this gentleman over here, and all the deputies with the sheriff's department. The fire department, you don't make enough money. I'm married to a police officer, so I know you don't make enough. But I want to thank you, and so you know that they do go over here and up here, but they represent all of Guilford County. And I have nothing to say about Sheriff Harmon except thank you for being so professional and making it possible that I do sleep good, whether my husband is in Afghanistan or wherever. I slept good at night here. Thank you very much. Adrian Williamson.
30 seconds.
Whatever.
three chairs, if you'd like to have a seat.
My name's David Wilson, I live at 3901 Royston Road, Greensboro. I haven't been over here in a while, but I keep up with it through the Northwest Reserve, and I see nothing's really changed. It's very nice to see all these people here tonight. A lot of them, they gave wonderful comments about how great things were and how nice we need to be, and act like they've never said anything about anybody back there. You know, it is wonderful to fall in that category when we know all of us have differences. And as I used to tell Mayor Sessions, all of us got an agenda, part of us just on a different agenda. And he and I carried on a bunch of jokes. But anyway, I've been living here for 51 years. You know, I thank everybody that's here tonight, because we used to be over here just have 5, 6, 10 of us, you know, have a wonderful time. Then things changed as time went on. But you know what I'm looking at right now, and I hate to say it. We've had a lot of good comments, a lot of people have praised things that's gone on, and we have done a lot. We have done a tremendous amount. And I mean, Dana's been on the board, she knows. I've been here, she knows that. I've complained, she knows that. But we ain't gonna change, because we don't agree 110% of the time. I mean, Miss Dunham and I've had more barn burner comments than anybody probably in the whole building, because I don't agree with a lot of things she said, but we agree to disagree. But we can't do that now. This reminds me of 2005 and 2006 all over again. I hope I don't get too emotional here. But we went through a terrible time with our council in 05 and 06. And it's looking the same direction right now, and I hate to say it. We had a lady to stand up, and I'm trying not to use people's names because I read in the paper that we want to be real nice and kind and not do that anymore. So I'm going to try to honor that. She stood right up, I believe the podium was down there then, I might be wrong, and said, let me see if I can read this. Let's see here. We need to let the council do its job. They was elected by the people. Well, things have changed now, haven't they? Boy. Now we've got one that wants to get everybody impeached. It was put in last time, or throw it off the council. That was voted in by the people. It's just like me and Dina. You know, I've told her several times I didn't like what was going on. She just, you know, kind of agree with me or not agree or whatever, and we go on about our business. We didn't try to get nobody thrown off the council. That was voted on by the people. So we run our course. Is that not right, Dana? We run our course. Ever how many years it took, that road right or wrong. We done what we had to do. I disagreed. They didn't make no never mind. Y'all want to talk about talking to people and trying to have things done and get things done in the right way? It didn't work before because we had a group. We had a group over here that never listened to nothing that anybody on the outside said anything to them about. And pardon me for being so direct, but that's the God's truth. I've been told more stories than you can imagine. We've been told stories about the size of lots we bought. It didn't make them never mind. You talk about wasting money, look at our budget. We have spent more than we've taken in years, every year. What does that lead to? It certainly don't lead to lower taxes. And you know, I could go on for 5 hours, but I won't. We need to try to, you know, stop the spin, get people on the right path. And I read, I believe it was in the Northwest Observer, I might be wrong, I might imagine. They're going to talk about people get up here and take their 5 minutes of fame to talk and want to be able to rebut us. That ain't going to happen. Because I done had it done to me before. They spent 5 to 45 minutes trying to spin what I said, and they ain't never convinced me of nothing. So if we get 5 minutes, let it go. We'll straighten it out another time. That's the way it ought to be done. If I got a problem with you, I'm going to come to you. I've been to Reese to you. And it don't bother me to see you outside. You know? So, I mean, that's just the way I am. And I've said a lot of things a lot of times over here. I probably regret it. I'll regret it tonight, probably. Some things I said. But it's what I feel in my heart. You know? And talk about these lot sizes. I hope I'm going to leave out something very important. Came out here 51 years ago. Gifford County told me I had to have 1 acre piece of land to build a house on. This is Gifford County. All right? So build a house. Now, tell you a little secret. The other property I own, I can't use. I have to have 3 acres of land to put anything on it. So don't tell me about this water deal. I done lived it. Have to have 3 acres on the same piece of property joining the one that I've got a house on with an acre of land. Because they say they're water. So now we're gonna put 2 houses on an acre? That don't make good sense to me. But Gifford County, the city says I can build another house on there without having 3 acres. Because I'm on the watershed. So what does that tell you? Groundwater is a problem. You know? We do have a problem with groundwater. I don't care what study, I'm not a expert or nothing else. But I've been to all these water meetings we have. We used to have them over at the schoolhouse. Remember at the end, we sit over there, what, all night, one night, didn't accomplish nothing. But anyway, then was up there, I was there, we sweated all night. But the water deal is a deal. I don't care what anybody says. If the city and the county want me to have 3 acres, put a house on, there's got to be some problem with water, right? And they put a subdivision within 500 foot of my piece of property. But they tell me I can't use it. So, what does that tell you? So I'm not in favor of changing the lot size less than an acre, personally. I didn't come out here to live on a postage stamp. I don't. And I wish I had more land than I got, even though I pay more taxes than I pay for the property. But anyway, that's we've my time is expired.
You're going to talk about money.
Thank you very much.
And we love your comments.
I had it right up. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Wayne Crawford.
Wayne Crawford, 1106 NC Highway 150 West. I didn't come up here to speak about it originally. I had something else I want to talk about. I'll get to it in a second, but it's talked about earlier. If you read the report and you use the math, you'll end up with 0 size, lot size, because 400 gallons per day, assume 400 gallons recharge. But what that formula assumes, to apply the formula where you actually end up with 0 size lots, you have to have 2 holes on your property. You have to have one to suck the water out and one to immediately put the poop and all the stuff back in. That's how that equation works. What was omitted from that conversation is that the water takes a long time to get back into the water tank. That was omitted from that conversation. I believe it was 1 of 2 reasons, either ignorance or purposeful. I don't know. We can talk about that later. All right, back to what I wanted to talk about. Lots of good comments, lots of good conversation. The big thing that I see missing is what's wrong with Summerfield right now. Why are we in this state we're in? I think the fundamental problem is selective morality, unequal application of the rules. And to that end, I'm going to continue where I started the last council meeting. It's talking about the Public Safety Committee and its shutdown and what brought us to that. And trying to make this make sense. I ended with the town manager contract. The town manager contract is up for renewal for 2 years, automatic. This council does nothing. If they talk about nothing about the manager's contract without a 60-day notice, that contract automatically renews. So I don't think that's actually in the best interest of the citizens. I think you should talk about it at least once before it automatically renews. And I'm going to give you a reason not to renew the contract. Some definitions, malfeasance, dishonest behavior, especially by a person in authority, performance by a public official of an act of harmful, especially an act of violation of public trust, misfeasance, the wrong, actual or alleged arising from or consisting of affirmative action. Reasons: failure to inform the council that the fire chief had been discovered lying to the Public Safety Committee about the Polo Farms water plant. For changing Public Safety Committee minutes before they were delivered to council. For failing to inform the council and citizens that the Public Safety Committee had voted to record all meetings and that these recordings were available to the public. For failing to report to the council on the fire chief's poor attendance record subsequent to lying to the committee. For willfully and intentionally making false claims that the Public Safety Committee was because of strained relationship, a euphemism to actually not talk about the real issue, with the Summerfield Fire District, the Board of Directors, and the fire department staff in general, when no such strained relation existed. For failing to report an open council meeting on the copious amount of time the manager was investing in relationship management with Chief Johnson. For acting to protect the fire chief's reputation up from his own record at the expense of the committee, its members, and the town. For failing to provide due process. For failure to act in the best interest of the town. The injured parties, the Summerfield Town Council, the Office of the Manager, the Summerfield Public Safety Committee and its members, the town, and the citizens of Summerfield. Thank you.
Good evening, Sean Ward, 5902 Mary Hall, Short, Summerfield. This is such a target-rich environment tonight, I don't even know where to begin to start. So I'll start where I was going to start. I was here tonight to support Steve Park. I want to say one thing about Steve Park. And if any of you want some information about the gentleman, I've got plenty of handouts with me. But I think the reality is, I've heard a lot tonight about how we got to work together, how we all got to get along, how we got to sing Kumbaya. Now, I wasn't hearing that a year ago before this council changed. And I think what happens is that when people spend too much time in a job and begin to feel they're too entitled and don't listen to the citizens, then they're ripe for change. And I think that's why the Sheriff of Guilford County, who has done whatever he's done over the past 24 years, I believe, needs to change. Not because he's inherently a bad person, not because he's inherently an unfit individual, but because he's become too comfortable in a job. And there's nobody who hasn't spent a lot of time in a job who doesn't get comfortable. And none of us as citizens should be comfortable with public servants being comfortable. That's just my take. I think Steve Parr is a guy that we ought to look at as a change maker. And maybe that change maker in this county will have the same effect to say, we really need to get along. We need to sing Kumbaya. We need to work together. Because right now, not a lot of work being done together. In the town here, I've heard an NC State graduate, and NC State's obviously a great school, criticize U.S. Geological Survey. And I've heard this response a dozen times over the past year on why they're flawed, on why the survey doesn't make sense, on why it doesn't allow, any size lots to be built, zero size lots. The fact of the matter is the U.S. Geological Survey had no axe to grind in their study. They didn't care. They get paid no matter what the result is. You can say the same for the Timmins Group. Timmins Group has a job. They're trying to get water here. How much are you willing to pay for that? You're paying for the study to some degree. How much are you willing to pay for having that water pumped on your property? You want to pay 10 grand? 20 grand? 100 grand? 100 grand's a lot. Probably more than it would be. But certainly it's not free. There are no free lunches. There is no free water. And anybody tells you that, anybody tells you, well, it will go to a water group and you won't have to pay for that. It's not telling you the absolute truth. It's just not the way it is. I am encouraged by the fact that more and more people are stepping out and saying, hey, we really need to work together. And I'm saying, yeah, we really need to work together. And council, you all need to work together before 2019. Because it's going to happen again. You can decide that you're back in the place you were in 2016. And that the people and the citizens really didn't matter except when they got up and yelled. And if you want the next step to take place, it'll take place. People will step out again. They will speak and they will vote. I don't know how it'll turn out. And for everybody who says, well, it was only a 50-50 vote. The candidates who won by more votes, total votes cast, than ever been cast in this election in this town. And that's despite the fact that we had sheriffs, local representatives, state representatives, federal representatives, endorsed candidates. You didn't make it. The team fell down. I'm just telling you, the people's voices were heard last year. It's going to be heard again when we get some results. The fact of the matter is, right now, there's two views. Either you're helping or you're impeding. You can be the resistance or you can be the Trump followers. It's up to you. Thank you.
Dana Luther, 5406 Deer Trail Road. I find it disheartening that I have to constantly defend my actions and my words to council, and not only deal with the accusations from council and staff afterwards, but the inaccuracies of the local media. When my character and professional standards are called into question, I will react and I will respond. As I stated in my letter to the editor of the Northwest Observer, I am not team anti-Whitaker, and I resent being labeled as such. I am anti-violation of policy, anti-violation of law, and anti-wasteful spending. My public comments have been about violations of policy and statute, enforcement of policy and statute, errors and corrections of those errors, and spending. All of the figures and policies that I have discussed publicly have come from the public records requests, the town website, or state statutes. And I will be happy to direct anyone to those documents if they find the need to question my statements of fact. My comments have already led to correction of some of the errors in the cash management policy, as well as the identification of errors in the audit report. In addition, my concerns about the cameras and violations of public record retention laws have been confirmed. The town is in fact in violation. As I listened to the past couple of council meetings that I was unable to attend, I heard certain council member comments that dumbfounded me. I heard one council member say they were accused of bullying a citizen when they addressed the citizen later in the meeting. Let me say that the first time I spoke before council, I was no doubt bullied and my motives attacked by a council member when all I commented on were direct violations of town policy. I then heard another council member say that he wanted more citizens to come to meetings and speak without fear of being attacked and fear of reprisal. I found those comments ironic, as later in the meeting, he then referred to the commenters at the previous regular council meeting as being a concerted effort and an orchestrated campaign to shame the manager, and accused us of reading from a script. We were also accused of being handed things to read. He stated that a lot of what was said at the previous meeting was incorrect, and the facts and figures were not accurate. Most citizens who come before you are not public speakers. We do not enjoy public speaking and are extremely nervous when we approach the podium. When I was in public speaking class, we were told not to read our notes directly. I tried to stick to that fully the first time I delivered my public comments. In doing so, many of my points weren't made, I ran out of time, and not all of my thoughts were stated completely. When I heard one of the early commenters state that she was going to read her comments, I thought to myself, that's a good idea, as did others, apparently. One of the commenters did not read a prepared statement and made a couple of errors in what he said, probably in how he said it out of nervousness. Those are the only inaccuracies I heard in the comments that night. For the record, my comments were mine alone. I was not provided a script, nor did I provide anyone with a script. Nothing was handed to me to read, nor did I hand anything to anyone to read. When I walked up to the podium, somebody had left their materials on the podium. I turned around with the materials and waved them so that the owner could claim them. I guess someone figured we were passing secret notes. If that had been occurring, would we have been so stupid as to do it openly? The only concerted effort that I witnessed was a bunch of concerned citizens making requests of their elected officials. Since the last regular meeting was the first time that budget comments were on the agenda, of course a lot of the comments were related to the budget and spending. I've heard comments about responding to citizens. I think it's perfectly fine, and I know a lot do not agree with me, that a council member can politely correct or clarify something after the public commenter speaks. I personally think it's better than accusations flying, misconceptions being furthered, and so forth. Council members are elected officials and need to have a thicker skin. You cannot argue with or make accusations about those who do not agree with you. The mayor was elected by the people and is expected to vote in the case of a tie. As a citizen, I expect her to be just involved in council discussions as any other council member. It has been stated by a council member numerous times that it is council's job to debate and the mayor's to preside. I view what the mayor is doing as discussing and not debating. It only becomes a debate when the mayor is interrupted countless times and cannot even get a question or complete thought out. It has been stated several times that the annual deficit spending for 4 of the past 5 years under the current manager has only been because of capital spending, as if that is okay. As I stated last month, our town cannot keep going at that pace since construction of the trails, the municipal complex, and additional ball fields, as discussed recently, has not even occurred yet. It doesn't matter if the deficit is the result of operating or capital, since it still means depletion of the fund balance. I will summarize that council and the media need to refrain from offering motives for citizen comments, making inferences and providing misstatements about the comments, outright lying about what was said, and bullying commenters to prevent them from speaking again. Listen to what we are saying and absorb it instead of immediately going on the defensive. Quote me if you want, but do not label me and put words in my mouth. Stating the street on which I live in the newspaper is non-essential information, and bullies only encourage me to speak out more. Thank you.
Eric Long?
I was actually going to say a few words, but I think I'll just listen and
No,
hear about.
come on up. Well,
Really, I was going to say something, but it's been a while since I've appeared in front of y'all, so I really kind of wanted to see how all the trash talking and everything in the newspaper played out in real life. So hopefully some of the comments that I made in previous meetings about the trail and certain topics that everybody's got a beef in this room about apparently, and sort of everybody wants to tell everybody else how to think and feel and all this, and I just think there's middle ground, and hopefully you guys can find it and make, I guess, the majority and me happy. So, that's it.
Diana Lane, they're going to switch to comments about the budget or finances. Did you want to say anything more about?
I had one conversation, and it was prompted by Nextdoor, which is the little website that some of us can go on, and it encouraged us to talk to the DOT, which I did today. So at any point in time, I don't know that I have any new information as it relates to the wall at Elmhurst, but I do have some addendum to that information. That's all.
Okay, budget or finance comments?
Mayor
Shum?
Dunham.
Yes.
I think I put my name on the wrong list because I wanted to be the
I'm
speaker from.
Alicia Flowers, come on down. 5 minutes for general comments.
First of all,
Thank you for coming.
Adrian, you're my hero. And Dana Luther, the best finance officer this town ever had. And yes, Wayne Crawford is in the chamber. Alicia Flowers, Whitaker Court, and Summerfield. Good evening, Mayor Dunham. It's nice to be able to say it. And council. I frequently get asked questions about the Martin House. I wanted the town to acquire the Martin House, but I actually wanted Linda to give us the Martin Almost did. I don't think so. Sue, you talked about how beautiful town hall was. Well, that was given to the town. That was very, a nice gift, and the volunteers did a lot of good work. Anyhow, I get asked questions about the Martin House, and so I'm here to tell you what I know. One of my primary concerns about that house was I wanted it to have its own well and not be tied to other water sources. So I went back to check my emails to make sure I had my facts straight. On October 29th of 2015, from the manager, Linda has verbally accepted an offer of $90,000 and agrees to our 2 conditions. The town contingencies: 1, county approval of a well on the parcel, and 2, all tenants must vacate and animals must vacate prior to closing. So ultimately, we were told that a well could be put on that property. I have a email, but I don't want to take up too much time. That being said, the town now owns the Martin House and the Gordon property. At the time of discussion, we never talked about spending millions of dollars to renovate those buildings. I don't think anyone sitting on that council at the time would have been agreeable to it. I think it's ridiculous, and as a taxpayer, I am adamantly opposed to spending millions. I want to see those buildings refurbished. If we can't bring them up to date, then just shore them up and close them up, and just let them be a monument to the history of this town. I read this in the paper, and it was very interesting to me. Years ago, as Attorney General, Governor Roy Cooper wrote the introduction to the North Carolina Guide to Open Government and Public Records. And I quote, "The spirit with which public officials work to comply with the law is as important as the law itself. In other words, when in doubt about how to interpret the state's open records and meeting laws, always work to resolve the question in favor of openness." And Pat McCrory tried and failed to charge members of the public for staff time to prepare records for public review. That's clearly illegal, and McCrory dropped it when the proposal became public. Okay, and I have another interesting email here. She talked about the UDO. October 5th, 2015, from the manager. My prayer for the next